I'm Erin, the curriculum author behind Let's Cultivate Greatness. I create social studies resources for middle and high school teachers as well as homeschool families. Today I wanted to give you a peek inside my geography and map skills workbook, which is part of a larger Foundations in Social Studies series. And I designed this series to really give isolated, solid coverage to each of the core social studies topics. I have one on U.S. government, another one on economics, and this one focuses on geography and map skills. And really with this one, kids are so often introduced to the basics, the foundations of geography in elementary school, but then they're really not often ever revisited. And that kind of revisit, especially at a deeper level, is really essential for permanent understanding of a concept or of a topic. And that's why I created this workbook specifically for upper elementary and middle school kids. However, you'll see inside I intentionally picked fonts and images that really make it work great, even as a crash course for up to high school students, really. All right, let's take a peek inside. Let's take a look at the table of contents. You can see there's 7 core chapters, really starting off with the foundations of just what geography is, the basic tools that are used to understand our Earth, then specifically looking at the globe and the coordinate system and how to use them, the 5 themes of geography and how those impact what a geographer does, and then ending with bodies and landforms and some human geography topics of population, settlement patterns, and how people interact with natural resources. So let's take a peek at chapter 3. All of the chapters are designed and set up the same way. So by looking at the one chapter, you can kind of get a sense of what all the chapters are like. First, we have an informational overview, kind of like a textbook reading with some vocabulary words and some comprehension questions to really just familiarize with that general topic. So kind of what the globe is, or what a globe is, how Earth is a globe, and the very basics of coordinate system topics. And then you have a couple of activities. This one is then getting into the details of all the different type of lines that exist on our coordinate system and locating them on a globe. And then practicing using those terms with all these real world examples. The next activity is then really getting into the details of the numbers and how you can express an exact location on Earth with a specific number, with lots of visuals to really make that make sense. And then looking at the United States and how the latitude and longitude lines look in the country of the United States. And then the third activity in this chapter is looking at different types of maps and the difference between a flat map and a round globe, and how there's distortion that happens and how different maps are great at showing different things. None of them are exactly perfect, but a map is a lot more handy than a globe, so that's why we use maps. And then at the end of the chapter, there's always 2 review kind of game activities to refresh on all of the terms, the concepts, and the facts that were covered, and then a quiz. And at the end, there's always the answer keys for all of the activities. And in the beginning, you'll see some suggested pacing guides that you can follow for a more sped up version of using the book, or more slowed down, or kind of an at your own pace. Always have some extension project ideas if you want to go a little slower and in depth and add some other things to what's in this book. And then also skills that are worked on throughout this book. All right, so as you can see, this is pretty full coverage of a kind of intro to geography course, or intro to geography topics to use as on its own. You can really use it alongside a middle school U.S. history, maybe world history curriculum, or you could really use this as a crash course refresher for early high school even, before diving into a more in-depth human geography course. All right, and I will put the links down below where you can learn more about the book and where to purchase it. All right, thanks for watching.